It's the first week of December 2024. Buckingham Palace is lit for a state visit. The Emir of Qatar is the guest of honor, and the long banquet table is set with the kind of precision that takes weeks to plan. Every glass, every name card, every inch of distance between chairs has already been decided by people whose entire job is to make sure nothing on this night looks like an accident. And then, for about 3 seconds, something almost does. The seating that evening placed Princess and directly beside Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, the Emir of Qatar, with King Charles on his other side. It's one of the more visible jobs in a state banquet. The person seated next to the guest of honor isn't just there to make conversation. They are there to help carry the evening's choreography. And choreography is exactly the right word, because a state banquet toast isn't a spontaneous gesture. It's timed. The king raises his glass, the guest of honor raises his, and everyone at the table is expected to follow in that same beat, without looking like they are following a beat at all. For a moment, and looked out toward the room as the king and the Emir clinked glasses together. She began to lift her own glass, and then caught herself. Video captured by Sky News shows the instant clearly. Her eyes meet the Emir's, and instead of drinking a beat too early, she catches the timing. The two of them share a small smile, and their glasses meet properly. She even glances the other way afterward, as if double-checking that no one else had been left waiting on her. Then she raises her glass and takes her sip, precisely on cue. It's such a small moment that most of the room probably never noticed it happening. But it's the kind of small moment that tells you something true about a person, precisely because nobody choreographed it. You can plan a seating chart. You can plan a menu, a toast, a procession order. What you can't plan is what someone does in the half-second where a mistake is about to happen. Whether they freeze, whether they cover, whether they laugh it off or fix it so smoothly that only the camera catches it. And fixed it so smoothly that only the camera caught it. That's worth dwelling on for a second, because it's really the whole story of how Princess Anne has built her reputation inside the family. Not through drama, not through declarations, through thousands of small, repeated moments where she simply does not let the moment get away from her. Rewind 11 days earlier, to a different building entirely. On November 20th, 2024, Anne and Camilla appeared together at the University of London, where Anne, who has served as the university's chancellor, presented her sister-in-law with an honorary doctorate of literature, recognizing Camilla's long-running work promoting literacy and reading. It was a warm occasion, and by all accounts a genuinely rare one, since joint engagements between the two women don't happen often. But there was a small procedural moment there too. As they arrived at Senate House, Camilla, clearly meaning it as a gesture of courtesy, gestured for Anne to walk into the room ahead of her. On paper, it's a small kindness between two women who've known each other for decades. In practice, it ran straight into the order of precedence, the formal hierarchy that decides who enters a room first at official events. Since Camilla holds the rank of queen, protocol places her ahead of Anne, even though Anne was born into the royal family and Camilla married into it. According to reporting from the Daily Express at the time, Anne simply smiled and declined the offer, letting Camilla go in first, the way the rulebook says it should happen. It's a nice detail, and it's become one of those small anecdotes royal reporters like to bring up, because it captures something particular about Anne. She spent more than 50 years inside a system built on precedent, and by every account, she takes it seriously, not because she's rigid, but because she seems to understand that the whole point of protocol is that it isn't supposed to bend for anyone's comfort, including her own. Reject the shortcut, protect the structure. That's the pattern, whether it's a doorway at Senate House or a toast at a state banquet. It's worth remembering, too, just how long Anne has been doing this. Her first official engagement was in 1969, when she was 18 years old, meeting Welsh soldiers. That's not a typo. More than half a century of turning up, year after year, to the unglamorous end of royal duty. The regimental visits, the agricultural shows, the hospital wings, the disability sport organizations she's quietly supported for decades. It's part of why the phrase hardest-working royal has followed her around for so long. She held that title, by the informal tally royal watchers keep from the court circular, in 2023 and again in 2024, when she logged 457 engagements. It's a title she picked up almost every year for the better part of the last decade. What's interesting is what happened next. In 2025, for the first time in years, and lost that title, not because she slowed down, but because her brother sped up. King Charles carried out 532 official engagements across 2025, edging past Anne's 478, even while continuing weekly cancer treatment. Royal commentator Patricia Treble, who compiles the yearly numbers from the court circular, noted that the king's total was the highest he'd logged since 2019, and that it felt like the family as a whole was making up for time lost during the health scares of the previous 2 years. Camilla's own workload rose too, climbing to 228 engagements, up a spot from the year before. It says something about this particular royal generation that even a cancer diagnosis barely slowed anyone down. If anything, everyone seemed to lean in harder. So if there's a real story behind that banquet toast, it isn't one of rivalry or replacement. It's the story of a family that, whatever tensions it's weathered in public over the years, keeps showing up to the unglamorous, repetitive, camera-ready work of being the monarchy, and does it with a level of precision that occasionally produces these small, human moments where you can see the machinery almost slip, and then watch someone quietly put it back in place. That's really what separates the real version of this story from the version that circulates in a lot of online royal content. The dramatic seating swaps, the tearful confrontations behind closed doors, the queen consort supposedly humiliated at a banquet that never actually happened. None of that reflects anything the palace, credible royal correspondence, or verified footage have ever reported. What actually happened is smaller and, frankly, more interesting. A genuinely rare joint appearance between two women who occupy very different positions in an old and rigid hierarchy, handled with more grace than friction, and a fraction of a second recovery at a state dinner that reveals, better than any scripted statement could, how seriously Princess Anne takes the choreography she spent her whole life inside. There's also something worth noting about why moments like the Emir of Qatar toast get so much attention in the first place. Royal watchers have spent years trying to read meaning into every gesture at these events. Who sits where? Who walks through a door first? Who catches whose eye during a toast? Because so much of royal life really is communicated through exactly that kind of detail. Precedence, positioning, and timing genuinely do carry weight in this world. That part of the fascination isn't wrong. What tends to go wrong is when that instinct to read meaning into small gestures gets stretched into inventing entire feuds, betrayals, and confrontations that no one in the room ever experienced. The real material, and decades of quiet, disciplined service, the actual protocol that governs a night like this, the split-second moments where the choreography almost breaks and someone saves it, is compelling enough without needing an invented plot twist stapled on top of it. It helps to understand just how old the system is that and was navigating in both of these moments. The order of precedence that placed Camilla ahead of her at Senate House traces back through centuries of English royal custom, long before anyone involved in either family had been born. It isn't personal, and it isn't really about affection or closeness to the throne at all. It's a fixed structure that ranks people by role and title, not by relationship. A queen consort outranks a princess who was born into the family. A monarch outranks everyone, and the system doesn't bend for sentiment. That's precisely why Anne's small refusal at the university doorway landed the way it did with royal commentators. She wasn't making a point about Camilla. She was simply declining to be the one who broke a rule that has held for generations, even when the person offering to break it was trying to be kind. It's a pattern that shows up across Anne's entire public life, long before Camilla was ever part of the family. Royal biographers who've covered her for decades tend to describe the same thing. She treats the rulebook as something worth protecting, not something to lean on for status. That's part of why, even as her brother edged past her in the 2025 engagement count, nobody read it as any kind of demotion. The numbers themselves say as much, Anne's total actually rose from the year before, even as Charles' rose faster. There was no ranking to defend, because for Anne the count was never really the point. 55 years after her first engagement in Wales, she's still the same person showing up to the regimental parades and the agricultural shows most of the public never sees, and still the same person catching a half-second slip at a state banquet before almost anyone in the room notices it happened at all. So no, Camilla wasn't dethroned from a chair beside the king, and Princess Anne didn't stage some quiet takeover at a state banquet. What actually happened was simpler and, in its own way, more telling. A woman who has spent 55 years learning the rhythm of these evenings caught a beat that almost slipped, fixed it in real time, and then went right on being the same steady, unflashy presence she's been since she was 18 years old, meeting soldiers in Wales, long before most of the world was paying attention to which chair anyone was sitting in.